Henry David Thoreau once said, "Our truest life is when we are in dreams awake." Hello, everyone. I am Andy Anderson. My partner, Ike Allen, and I are the co-owners of Avaya University. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. In this event, we are talking with some really incredible experts. We're talking with thought leaders, visionaries, authors, and more who are here to inspire and motivate you to pursue the next level of your dreams. And today, our guest is going to be talking about awakening the dreamer, the secret to authentic, empowered manifestation. So please welcome the fabulous Val Silidker. Hi there.
Hey there, Andy. Thank you for having me again. Wonderful to be with you.
Absolutely. It's the pleasure is mine, and we're so excited to dive into a new conversation with you today. I want to tell everyone a little bit about you first, and then we'll get started. So for those of you who don't know Val, she is the co-founder and director of Psychospiritual Institute and founder of Inspired Life Workshops. She is a new paradigm leader, a deep ecologist, international speaker, author, board-certified master coach, and coach trainer. She works with change makers. She works with emerging leaders, visionaries, and more to inspire the highest level of mindset, connection, and purpose in their lives. Through large-scale mindful living events and conferences and workshops, retreats, and coaching, she has inspired the transformation of thousands of people throughout the world. So Val, let's talk about manifesting the life that we dream. What is the first step to us doing that? And what does it mean to awaken the dreamer?
Yeah, thank you, Andy. So, getting us started. So often when we talk about manifestation, we focus on immediately, what do I want, right? What do I want? What do I want to create? What do I want to desire? What do I desire? And the focus is right outward in what I want to create for myself. So I like to invite us to actually take a step inward and sort of a deeper inquiry that can prepare us even better for that question. And that's where this invitation to awaken the dreamer, right, comes from. So I think that the first thing that's important for us to know is to really understand where it is that our power comes from, right? We talk about we are the creators, we are powerful creators, we can create anything we want. Sometimes we say things like, take that step and the universe will meet you there, or the universe has my back, or we say a lot of things, but what do they really mean? And so a lot of times when we talk about like the universe meets me there and this kind of thing within manifestation, I feel like what it does, first of all, is it creates a separation between us and this incredible creation power that's got our back, or that's somehow meeting us when we take a step. When in the reality, what we've come to learn about ourselves so deeply and more every day through physics and this kind of inquiry is that who we are is that power. Who we are is this creation energy. So in the work that I do in Psychospiritual Institute, we look at who we are, the sense of wholeness, and we kind of look at it in two parts, even though it's all connected. And on one level, the who we are is this personal, unique self, right? The Val, Andy, like the way that we express ourselves into the world, all the things that we think about when we think about ourselves, our unique, differentiated self. And then also who we are on this deepest sense of self is ultimately interconnected. We are part of this oneness that is everything. This great mystery that gave birth to the universe over 13.7 billion years ago. And it's been unfolding and creating galaxies and stars and the earth and, non-human animals and humans and consciousness. It's like the universe wanted to see itself, so it created an eye. The universe wanted to know itself, so it created consciousness and the ability to be self-reflexive, which is something very unique to the human species. And so we are fundamentally that. And the more we explore ourselves, the more we see that there's no duality, right? We are that. And we are expressing that through our unique individual selves, which is equally as important and powerful to define. So being that we are this power, like we can create anything we want, right? Because we are the creator, right? We're the dreamers, and we get to dream anything we want into this world. And so that's one part of coming into ourselves as the dreamer, then awakening this part of ourselves on a deeper level, which also means because we have this power, it is so important for us to understand that blind power or ignorant power to just create what I want, what I desire, can become very dangerous in our world. And so the invitation to begin when we think about how do we manifest is to, number one, remember who we are on this deepest level. And then to remember that we are so interconnected with life that when we talk about utilizing what we want, it's not just the power to align, what we want with who we are on this deepest level, but it's also that power to align who we are and what we want with how we affect the world around us, and how there's a deeper want, a collective want that moves our world forward. Mm-hmm. And so when we make choices for ourselves, we want to be in total full on alignment. And that's the first thing, because we can want all this crazy stuff, and we live in a society that's so much a consumer society, right? Mm-hmm. That we have to reassess what it is we really want.
Right.
When we just start with, well, let's manifest what we want and let's create the life we want, we have to ask that deeper question, what is it that I really want? Because everybody wants luxury and $1 billion home and all this stuff, which is not really real. That's not really who we are. And we don't need that stuff. I mean, it's fine to want things like that, but we have to always take into consideration the whole. That's the point. So awakening the dreamer is really reassessing what it is that we think we want that's in alignment with who we are. Mm-hmm. Not from the conditions of society, this consumer society that's told us that we need to want these large things, these huge things in order to feel whole, in order to feel happy, right? In order to feel desired or loved or seen, or any of those things that get in our way from just actually falling in love with who we are right now.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's beautiful. So for the next question, Val, it was a little quiet on the first question, and I didn't notice that until after we got started. So I don't know if if you could speak louder or you're on a microphone and you could turn it up, but it was just a little quiet.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I can definitely turn it up.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's dive into a little bit deeper to this. So how does imagination play an important role in creating the lives of our dreams, whatever we want to create?
Yeah. The way that I see it and the way that I live it, manifestation is really like this, there's a step-by-step thing that's going on here, right? So we begin with reconnecting to our deeper sense of self and understanding who it is that we are and how we are the embodiment of this power. And then we're taking a look at how we align, right, who we are with how we live in the world, so that our wants become aligned with a deeper sense of truth about who we are. Now we can say, what is it that I really, really want? Not what society is telling me I want, right? And being totally full and whole. What is it that I want that will serve me and allow me to serve the world on a deeper level? Mm-hmm. And so when we get to that space and we're able to now take a look at what do we really want, which brings us back to the original question, right? Mm-hmm. Now it's about activating the imagination. See, imagination it's everything. It's everything when it comes to creating the life we want. And we can see this actually play out, as an example, in our larger society. And how's the volume real quick, just as I'm talking? Is it better?
Yes, it's better.
Okay, awesome. Right, so we can see how our imagination plays out in our larger society. Everything that we want to create comes from the imagination, right? Mm-hmm. One of our most extraordinary qualities as humans is our capacity for imagination. And the best way we see this is through science fiction. Right? Mm-hmm. We're creating things and imagining the world all the time. We've always done it. We're symbolic creatures. And so we talk in symbolism and imagination and stories. And so we look at what it is we want to create on large levels. And then we start to live, our whole world collectively starts living towards the great vision that we share. Right now, because this is so much a part of who I am in my work, so I'm going to keep coming back here. Right now, we see the visions and the stories, right, of our imagination, this kind of post-apocalyptic cyber world, the singularity of human and computer, right? We've been dreaming that and imagining that for decades now. Mm-hmm. And now we're actually seeing Elon Musk, and like this whole new Neuralink, thing, and all this stuff that's happening is what we've been imagining coming into life. It begins with imagination. We're watching ourselves collectively manifest our dreams and visions as a whole. So there's a whole group of us right now inviting a new reimagining of the future, a new story of what we could possibly live into that doesn't have to look so apocalyptic and devastating. And we're working towards that, right? So this is kind of a larger example of our imagination at play, and how imagination and manifestation are completely the same thing. It's like we're living ourselves into it. So it also works for us on a personal level, right? When we want to create something in our lives, we tune in, right? All the steps that we talked about already. What is it that we really want from our deepest sense of truth? And now we envision it. We imagine it. We fully bring it to life. We see it, we smell it, we taste it, we feel ourselves there. We create the story and we create the vision of what we're going to live into. And the brain is so much like a search engine, right? So when we start to create and imagine, we also need to couple that with powerful questions, right? So instead of sitting with the, I don't know how to get here, why can I never create what I want, why doesn't this work for me? As soon as we ask questions like that, the brain's going to go, here's why it doesn't work, boom, 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 right? Or here's why you can't do it, boom, 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 boom. Look how it's never happened before. Like, so it's going to pull us out of the vision that we really want to create for ourselves. So imagining with clarity and focus and asking powerful questions about how do I get from here to there? And that's going to open up a path to start living into that story, that dream, that world that we are creating for ourselves. So that's sort of the first part of imagining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love it. It's funny because there are so many, right, apocalyptic shows and things on, and I will say I enjoy The Walking Dead, or at least I enjoyed it the first few seasons. So great. I really hope that we're not going to collectively imagine that into our future, because that would be horrible. But yeah, absolutely. The power of imagination. So what gets in our way then? What gets in our way of, if we're clear and we're imagining and if imagination and manifestation are, right, that same thing, like how is it that people aren't creating what it is that they want?
Beautiful. Yeah, because there is this gap that happens. So we have this imagination, we're envisioning our future, taking us through these steps, right? Then we say to ourselves, all right, I don't know if I can do this, and then there's little part of ourselves creeps up that has these limiting beliefs and says, I'm not really ready, or I don't know that I can really handle this, or people don't really want to hear what I have to say. And so we start to sabotage our ability to create what we envision because of our, that whole buzzword, this idea of limiting beliefs, which is really these parts of ourselves, what we call subpersonalities in the work that I do, where we our identity gets hijacked, and then we fully believe that we are this part of ourselves that thinks we're not capable. When ultimately, when we reconnect to who we truly are, we are ultimately creative, ultimately powerful, and ultimately capable of creating anything. So we have to take time to actually notice those identities and those beliefs when they pop up, and we have to do that work. We have to do the work of clearing it out, because we can have a vision for what we want, but if we don't fully believe with all our heart and soul that we can do it, then we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. And no fancy affirmation is going to help. So right. I know a lot of people, are attached to these ideas of affirmations, but an affirmation without the roots of the belief are nothing but fancy words. And so it's really important for us to take a look at even the subtle ways that we sabotage ourselves, those subtle ways that these parts of us that have these beliefs or these patterns that we play out get in the way of our ability to live ourselves into our visions. So doing this work around limiting beliefs and understanding, that who we are is ultimately capable. And just to reinforce that we have to believe it with our whole being in order to create it. We have to know that we're worthy. We have to know that we're ready. We have to know that we are good enough. We have to know that what we say matters. That when we write this book, even though there's 20,000 other books that seem to be on the same topic, that what you have to offer is so uniquely yours. And that brings us back to that personal self that I was talking about earlier. Who we are is ultimately, there's no duality, right? We're ultimately all connected, and we're both that and these unique beings, right? And there's nobody in the world that can do what you do the way you do it.
Right.
So there's no real such thing as competition. We all have a unique voice. We all have a unique way showing up in the world. And that feels very important to say when we talk about manifesting the life we want, because it gives us the confidence to step into and embody who we are to create the life we want to do for ourselves, you know?
Awesome. I love it. So I love that you mentioned sabotage, because that's something that comes up so often. And I'm sure most people, myself included, can relate to occurrences in life where we've done something that is sabotaging some kind of happiness or peace or whatever that we're looking for in our life. So I guess the question is that I have in this moment is, if we've recognized something like a moment of self-sabotage or something, then what do you suggest in those moments to do? Because I know a lot of people can get wrapped up into guilt, and then they kind of spiral down into, right, not really accomplishing what they want to accomplish, because then they're going down into I'm not worthy and all that stuff. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, great question. So the first thing is, number one, when you notice it, be thankful. Because a lot of times we walk with ignorance, not even seeing these parts of ourselves that are showing up and keeping us from where we need to be and the way we need to live, you know, to honor who we are. So notice it. The first thing we do is we go into the identity, right? So this is actually the work that I do. It's called psychosynthesis. It's a spiritual psychology that a big part of that is about looking at these parts of ourselves. So when we notice something creeping up or a belief creeping up, the first thing to do is to recognize that that is not who we are. So a lot of times, you know, we have all these different identities that we live in our lives, and sometimes like different roles that we play. I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, I'm not a creative person, you know, I'm not somebody who speaks out. Like we have all these ways of identifying ourselves. So the first thing to recognize is that sometimes we have these identities that we get so attached to that we think that that's who we are, when in reality it isn't, right? That deeper sense of self. So when that creeps up, the first thing to notice is that there's a part of myself, and the languaging becomes really important here. There's a part of myself that's speaking out right now and saying, I can't do this. Okay, so first thing is to just completely separate that, what we call disidentification. Right. So we're identifying that there's a piece of me that's coming up and that has this belief, and it feels uncomfortable. And it's something I've seen pop up a lot in my life. And now it's this process of actually disidentifying and reconnecting with our deeper sense of self. So now who I am is deeper than this. It's only a part of myself. So now you can create a distance between who you are and the contents of your consciousness, which are always changing. These roles, these identities, your thoughts, your emotions, they're always moving through us, right? Like clouds against a blue sky. So be the blue sky and notice the clouds, just like we do in mindful meditation. Take a look as the compassionate, loving observer. Notice this part of yourself that's having these uncomfortable feelings, these belief that believes this, you know, and probably at some point in your life, something happened, you know, the person who feels like they're not creative, you know, maybe they were 5 years old and they drew a picture and someone said, no, that's not how you do it. Let me show you how, right? And then some other time somebody praised the person next to them. Wow, that's such beautiful art, and didn't say anything about their picture. And they were like, maybe I'm not creative. So now this part of themselves, this gets created, and then soon they believe that's who they are, who I am. Not creative. Nope, not me. Not a creative bone in my body. But if we disidentify from that and reconnect to the ultimate creativity, that's what we are, right? We've established that. Now we can look at this part of ourselves that has this belief and get, this isn't who I am. So now we can take a look at that part of ourselves with love and no judgment, right? And see, like, where did that belief come from? And what is it that this part of me needs? Maybe this part of me needs to just express some kind of creativity and not be judged for it, or, you know, needs to something, right? Because ultimately I'm keeping myself from being creative, and that's not helping me to create the life I want, right? So I need to see this. I need to understand the needs of this part of myself, right? And again, with love and not judgment, because ultimately the goal is to integrate that back into who we are as a whole, and notice the pattern. Because the more that we notice this part of ourselves, the more we're able to completely dissolve our pattern of behavior that couples with this belief, this action or this inaction that results from this belief about ourselves. So we're able to dissolve those patterns and then make a choice from who we are, which is ultimately creative. So let me take a chance on creativity here, which may
Mm-hmm.
not look like drawing or music. It may just be a way of speaking or a way of communicating or a way of, designing a project. There's so many ways to express creativity as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really getting into that identity, noticing it, observing it, getting to know what it is, what it wants, what it needs, integrating it back into our sense of wholeness, and then making a choice that's deeper so that we're not choosing from fear. We're not taking an action because we're caught up in an identity or a belief, right? And we're able to clear that space out and come back home. And from that space, we get to move forward. And then we're like, there's that, right? There's our vision again. And now there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing stopping us. And when it does, bam, go into it, right? Dissolve that pattern, come back home and move
Mm-hmm.
forward continuously.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little bit about that. There's obviously like a deep body of work here, but just to give you a sense of that,
Mm-hmm.
it's so important to clear out those beliefs so that we can fully, wholeheartedly envision and embody and move toward what we want.
Mm-hmm. I love
Fiercely,
it.
passionately. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I think just disidentifying, like you mentioned, the disidentifying, I think that is just so powerful. And I too forget that sometimes, but for everyone watching, right? Like if you forget, just like go back into remembering, right? That it is not who you are, right? Like if we didn't believe that we were that voice or that saboteur or that, limiting belief or whatever, man, it's so much easier because then it is just watching the clouds, right? It's not this judgment and guilt and shame and all sorts of things that get wrapped up into that because you're just watching it like a TV show or watching it like the clouds. So I think that's an awesome way of looking at it. So let's talk a little bit about deep ecology and activism. I know those are a couple of things that you focus on in your work. So what does that mean? What does deep ecology and activism mean to you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's obviously like even we can feel like the context of this conversation is kind of weaving into that. For me, first of all, deep ecology is this beautiful philosophy around reconnecting us with the natural world, understanding who we are as humans and how we relate to the world around us, and inviting us to make choices that honor life. Right now we're living in such a fragile time. And so it's more important than ever for us to recognize our larger body, really Earth, and understand ourselves in relationship to everything that's happening. We have the Amazon rainforest that's burning, and we feel that inside of us, and we call it the lungs of the planet, right? And when the things around us are dying because of our ignorance and our disconnect, we feel it inside of us. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the information we take in, the food we eat, all of it. If we're poisoning the plants, we're eating that poison, right? The air is polluted, the water, everything. We are so intimately interconnected and interdependent with life. And so deep ecology is this invitation to explore who we are in this context so that we can make choices in our lives from a deeper sense of wholeness. And when we talk about, manifesting the life we dream, it's the same thing. It always brings me back as a deep ecologist to what does that really mean, when we talk about the life that we want to live, and how can we live an incredibly rich and abundant life that also honors life and creates sustainability in our world, and so that the power that we have and that we are is used in these powerful, positive ways that move our world forward. And that's the essence of the sacred activism. It's participating in a much bigger way than just our individual selves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's expressed through how we live our lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's expressed by remembering who we are, and every single day, the choices we make, being fully aligned with that understanding.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So this next question might you may have just covered it, but if not, then I'll ask you to go into it. So I know in your work you talk about the life we dream is not just about us, which you were just talking about it. So how does our personal manifestation relate to the world around us?
Yeah, and yeah, it's been weaving through our conversation. Um, every choice we make affects much more than us, right, Andy?
Mm-hmm.
Everything we decide, from the food we eat, right, to the clothes we wear. Who made your clothes? A sweatshop in China? It's like every single thing. The story of stuff, right? There's that great video viral on YouTube for a very long time now, the story of stuff, right? It's understanding the choices we make, the money we spend, everything that we do creates a ripple effect into this world and affects much more than us. So when we dream our unique, what feels like individual dream, the invitation is to both dream for ourselves and for our world simultaneously. What does that look like when you think about the life you want to live?
And I think like my experience has been like the more, right, like a lot, it would occur, and this might not be true for everybody, but right, it would occur that like often if we align with our purpose, right, align with our, who we really are, it just so happens that whether we're directly helping others and that's what we're doing, we're somehow like, yes, like working towards a greater whole as we are living in our purpose, as we're living in whatever that dream is for us. It just seems like that's like an interesting consequence of being aligned with who we are.
Yeah, I think you said that beautifully. It really comes down to that, because as we reconnect with a deeper sense of self and how we relate to the world around us, it ultimately informs our sense of purpose. It might even change our sense of purpose. When we get really deep into this work of realigning our sense of self, right, with the world around us and understanding how connected we are to everything and how what we do and what we choose matters, it may actually set us on a completely different journey, and have a deeper connection to it, that sense of purpose. And that sense is what drives everything. Because if we're fully living aligned with who we are and a sense of purpose that is connected to the world, and the power and the purpose and the presence that we bring to that and the choices that we make hold both ourselves and the world, just by simply living who we are contributing positively, right? Moving us consciously, moving ourselves forward. We don't have to be, leaders of movements and organizations and corporations and massive things. We can show up as a mother and be a powerful contributor to this planet. We can simply just show up in our own lives and interact with the person serving your coffee at Starbucks, with compassion and feel that sense of connection. And it can completely shift the experience. So all of that is so, so important to just know that just by living who we are creating a difference in the world. And from that space, when we envision and imagine and dream, we're unstoppable. It's unstoppable when we're in full alignment.
That's good. I'll have to quote you on that one. We're unstoppable when we're in full alignment. I love it. Yes. Awesome. I love that. Thank you for diving into that, because I think that's so important, and it helps everyone watching, right, feel connected to each other, and right, we are co-creating this whole thing together right now in this moment, and there it is, right? So thank you.
Yes, definitely. It's such an important conversation.
It is. So I want to remind everyone there's a couple buttons below this video since we're running a little low on time, Val. So there's a button that leads over to a gift you have for everybody, and also an offer. So could you tell us about what those are?
Yes, absolutely. So the free gift that you will definitely want to download this. It has actually a lot of what we were talking about today. It's called the Ideal Model. And it's a powerful exercise that invites you to take an honest and authentic look at how you're showing up in the world. Those identities I was talking about earlier, the ways that society impacts the way you show up, or the expectations you're trying to meet, or some of these, what we call false models. It takes you through this incredible process of sort of dismantling these false models so that you can consciously create and manifest the person you are meant to be. And we call that the ideal model of who you are and what you are stepping into in your life. So it's an incredibly powerful exercise.
Awesome.
I'm so excited to share. So make sure you guys download that. You're gonna get a lot out of it. It has created some incredible breakthroughs for people.
Awesome. I love it.
Yeah. And then the other thing, the other link is going to take you to Psychospiritual Institute. And in that, you're going to read more about the work of psychosynthesis that we do. We have 9-month board certified coach training and leadership programs that we offer. We actually launched our last one in September 11. Every 6 months, we launch a new course. We take an intimate group of people. So we have an interview process that we go through, and it's incredibly powerful work that invites you into a lot of what we were talking about again, is dissolving these patterns, noticing these identities, disidentifying, reintegrating and synthesizing who you are into this powerful whole, so that you can create your life consciously and step into the leader of your life, and in any capacity, small and large, support leading our world forward in powerful, positive ways. So take a look at that. Our next course will be coming up in spring, and we have other events and workshops and all kinds of wonderful things happening through the Institute as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's awesome. And thank you for the gift. And everyone, again, the buttons are below, so go grab your download. And if you're interested in going deeper into this psychosynthesis with Val, then please take advantage of her program there. And thank you so much for doing this and being here with us again. And are there any last insights, anything else you feel inspired to share before we wrap up, Val?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm just really excited to be able to be in this conversation all the time. There is one more thing that I will add.
Yes.
Talking about manifestation and, the whole journey, I just kind of feel like a recap would be quite beautiful.
Yes.
So it's remembering who you are, coming home to who you are. And from that space of interconnection, reassessing what it is that you truly want, that's aligned with the truth of you and that deepest part of your being that holds both you and our world in a powerful whole. And then it's activating the imagination to really create the vision and the dream of what you want, looking at whatever might step in the way and dissolving those patterns by disidentifying, reintegrating those what feel like you, those parts of yourself back into your sense of wholeness. So you have a clear path. And then the last part that we didn't actually talk about yet is having a fierce focus. So you see what you want, you're clearing all these things out of your way. It's about staying present, staying focused, and taking action with that focus. Because sometimes the path is windy and unexpected. So even as you're working towards what you want to manifest for your life, it may take unexpected turns. So just know that when things like that happen, it's just the information that life needs to impart, right? So it may feel like you're falling down when really you're like discovering something beautiful that was on the ground. And it's this gold and this information that you actually need to create even more clarity in your vision. So trust the process and stay focused and present, and you will create everything you desire.
Thank you. I'm so glad you added in that last part, because absolutely, like things happen, courses change, like just stuff happens along the way. And that is part of our experience in this journey. So I think that that's so important that you mentioned that to remind everyone of that. So awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for doing this and being here and taking the time today. We appreciate you and your work. And everyone, thank you so much for showing up for yourself today. I like to say often that, you showed up, and that says so much about you right now, that you're showing up for yourself. You're believing in yourself. You're showing up. You're wanting to absorb all this information. So thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next one, everyone. Take care. Hey everyone, I just wrapped up another great class with Val Silidker. She talked with us about awakening the dreamer, the secret to authentic, empowered manifestation. And she talked about a lot of really great stuff. Some of my favorite things were when we talked about what gets in the way of us, right, imagining and manifesting things in our life that we want to manifest and imagine. So she talked a lot about, obviously, limiting beliefs. We've heard this time and time again throughout this series, right? Limiting beliefs start to creep in after we declare what we want. Let's say you got super, super clear about something that you want, and you're coming from that place of alignment, right? That place that Val talked about, like that place of who you really are, right? Coming from that place, you decide this is what you want to create, and then limiting beliefs start to creep in after that. And sometimes we can sabotage ourselves. We can do things that sabotage our success, our ability to be in a relationship with somebody, our health, all sorts of different things. So her top recommendation is, when you notice yourself sabotaging, you notice those limiting beliefs creep in, be thankful. So I thought this was a great, amazing way to look at it, a very powerful, positive way to look at it. So instead of, going into, oh, I just ruined something again, or I messed something up and I'm such a horrible person, because all that is just that limiting belief and that limiting voice continuing to control you, right? So instead of that, be who you really are, as awareness, as the loving observer, and be thankful that you've noticed that you've become aware of that. So second thing I wanted to mention about that is really the power of disidentifying with that voice, with those limiting beliefs, with that that inner critic that tells you you're not good enough, that you can't accomplish it, that you don't deserve success, you don't deserve love, whatever it is for you, disidentify with it. And this is something that I'm always practicing this, and I do forget this. And I sometimes dive into believing those self-limiting beliefs and thinking that's who I am. But try to remember in those moments, wait a second, I can come back into alignment with who it is I really am. I am the observer of those thoughts, so that you stop identifying with that. And when you stop identifying with that, they no longer have power over you, because they're just, things fluttering around in your mind that you don't have to give attention to. So, and that's the space where you can really create powerfully from, when you recognize that all that other crap is not who you are. So I just really wanted to make a note of that as just a very powerful thing for you to remember. And thank you again so much for tuning in, for showing up, and we will see you on the next one.